Science experiments often look for cause and effect, but sometimes more than one thing can change the effect. So we use a controlled experiment that only changes one variable and keeps everything else the same. For instance, if Mr. Rising wants to know how much water he should give his plants for them to be super healthy, he could design a controlled experiment to find out. He would need to have several plants of the same type, size, and age, and put them in the same type of pot with the same type of soil. All those things, the soil, the plant type, plant age, they all could also affect how healthy the plant looks. So he needs to keep them the same, or control them, for all of his experimental groups. That's why they're called experimental controls. The only thing he should change is how much water each plant gets. That is his independent variable. The amount of water is independent because it's separated out from all the other things that could affect the plants. And it's called a variable because variable is a word for things that can change. The experimenter directly changes or manipulates the independent variable to see what happens. So, Mr. Rising changes the amount of water he gives to each plant. After a few weeks, he will measure the dependent variable. The dependent variable is the thing that changes depending on the presence of the independent variable. Mr. Rising will measure how healthy each plant is. So plant health is the dependent variable. It depends on how much water it got. Now, sometimes you need to have something to compare your results to, so you know how well your experiment worked. If Mr. Plan is developing a new deodorant for teens and he wants to know if his deodorant makes teens smell better after PE than their regular brand, he should measure the smell of his students after using their regular brand. This is the control group because they did not receive the experimental treatment. Then he can measure the smell of his students after they used his new deodorant. This is the experimental group. They got the experimental treatment. The independent variable here, the one Mr. Plan is changing, is the type of deodorant. The dependent variable is the one he's measuring, the smell, because the smell depends on the type of deodorant they used.